90% of how our skin can age is in our control, the accumulation of aging cells. These are just cells that stop functioning well, and they induce the cells around to age faster, so they can also become zombie cells.
Excess sugar is also connected to the increase in visceral adiposity for women, which also increases inflammation.
Skin is a reflection of our internal health. It's like a two-way approach that I think we all need to be aware of.
After menopause, it's about a 30% reduction in your collagen. We start to lose the integrity of our skin.
Dr. Carolina Reyes Oliveira
is the CEO and co-founder of OneSkin, leading groundbreaking work in longevity and healthy aging. With a PhD in immunology and her pioneering OS01 peptide, the first proven to reverse skin's biological age, she's reshaping how we think about aging from the outside in.
We have done studies for cosmetics at 3 months. We tested the peptide. We saw an improvement in the barrier of the skin, and we saw a more pronounced reduction in fine lines and wrinkles and radiance.
There's lifestyle choices that can accelerate skin aging. What are the things that we should consider avoiding?
Based on my studies and my research in the field is that first rule obviously is avoid.
Welcome to the Dr. Brighton Show, where we burn the BS in women's health to the ground. I'm your host, Dr. Jolene Brighton, and if you've ever been dismissed, told your symptoms are normal or just in your head, or been told just to deal with it, this show is for you. And if while listening to this, you decide you like this kind of content, I invite you to head over to drbrighton.com, where you'll find free guides, twice weekly podcast releases, and a ton of resources to support you on your journey. Let's dive in. You have been in the skincare industry for a very long time. So the juicy question I have for you is, what is something that you were doing? Maybe it was a skincare routine or using a product that you thought was so great for your skin, but then it turned out to be the worst thing you were doing for your skin.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. One of the products that I was using since a young age is like retinoic acid, because I had acne growing up. And then eventually when I was in my 20s, I continued to use for its anti-aging benefits. And the thing is that I was always like red and peeling. And I was like, that's fine. I'm like just rejuvenating the skin. That's how it's supposed to be. And then when we started testing peptides and molecules in the lab, and we used like retinoic acid as a positive control, I saw like genes associated with inflammation and aging going up. And I was like, whoa, I was using this to like rejuvenate the skins, and those genes are going up. So like, what's going on here? So from that time on, I stopped it for a while, and I realized that I was overusing retinol, because what happens is that if you stop, your skin can, adjust, and then you shouldn't be red and like peeling all the time. It's okay in that adaptation phase. But I think I was overusing, because I was always like with redness and, a little bit of irritation, and I thought that was fine. And then later on, I realized, no, I was like doing too much into my skin. And when you have like prolonged redness and inflammation, it's definitely not good for your skin. So my main advice for people that use retinol, it's make sure that your skin can adapt to it, and that you can also combine with a product that counteract those side effects, the inflammation, the redness, and hydration, because that's another thing. I was not using like a very good moisturizer. So I was just peeling all the time, and I thought that was right. And then later on, I realized, wow, no, that's not how you do it. And today I understand how important it is to have like, to preserve your skin barrier. So make sure that your skin is not super exposed, because your skin needs to be strong to protect, your internal body. And if you're constantly peeling, you're basically getting rid of that barrier, and your skin gets more exposed. And so that can lead to a lot of issues that today I understand a lot better, how we should take care of our skin in a way that, yes, we can still have the rejuvenation that we want, but we don't need it to compromise our skin barrier. We don't need it to be, facing those redness and irritations all the time, this is actually a sign from your skin, hey, stop and let's slow down for a little bit.
Okay, so we're going to get into rejuvenating the skin and all the things that we can be doing, but you said something in there that I think made a lot of people just raise their eyebrows, which is you said that using this vitamin A, so the retinoic acid that you alluded to, that was causing inflammation, and you saw that in the lab. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, so essentially one of the things that we do, we grow skins in the lab and we can replicate the skin aging, and we test either like a topical product or a specific molecule, and we see how the skin behaves. And with retinoic acid or retinol, it's very clear. When we apply it on top of the skin, we see the upper layers coming out. We know that retinol induces this cell renewal. So you're going to basically shed out the top layers and you'll grow a newer, fresher skin. And as I said, that's okay if it is for a short period of time. And so what we saw when that peeling was happening, genes associated with inflammation and aging were also going up, meaning that, instead of like turning those genes off, that's what we want, to rejuvenate the skin, they can be temporarily turned on. And that can, if it's sustained for long term, that can be detrimental for your skin. So that's, one of the ways that we evaluate like ingredients and products to make sure that in the end we want to deliver just benefits to the skin. We don't want to cause side effects, and we definitely don't want to compromise the skin health.
With the retinol, was it dose dependent in terms of activating pro-aging genes, or was it frequency dependent, or was it both?
Definitely the higher dose, the stronger the effect. And in the lab, we can only test like for a short period of time. So that's why I usually associate it with the acute phase that your skin is reacting to it. And we cannot like keep the skin longer to see those genes, coming down. But definitely the stronger the retinol, and obviously the prolonged, if you sustain the exposure, that will lead to more inflammation. So that's why we say that you should, either cycle or make sure that your skin adapts in a kind of a slow phase building, so your skin is not, overreacting to it.
What does it look like to cycle retinol, and what other products should you be including in your routine to kind of safeguard against these effects?
Yeah. So cycle basically means like don't use it every day. Use like, three, it depends on your skin, like how much you can tolerate, but it starts like 2-3 times a week and alternate. When you feel that your skin is already strong and can tolerate, you could potentially use every day. One of the tricks that I do, if I want to use it every day, I apply my moisturizer first, because then I feel that I have a layer of like protection. And then I come with the retinol on top. Because if I do the retinol first, it's gonna maybe work faster, but I also know that I will experience either the redness or the peeling, and that I don't want that. So I either alternate, or if I want to use it more often, I apply my, OS1 moisturizer first. And the products that you should look to combine are products that will soothe your skin, because the retinol can cause redness. You want to calm down. You want to reduce the inflammation. You want to hydrate your skin, because also the retinol can cause dryness. And the other thing is it's basically to increase like the repair capacity of the skin and like the barrier building capacity. So products with like ceramides will help, repairing that barrier that the retinol may, compromise for the short term.
I love that idea. And I also do this as well. So it's really reassuring to hear that, of putting a moisturizer first and
Mhm.
then the retinol on
Mhm.
top. I'm someone with sensitive skin, so I always have to be careful of what I'm putting on there. And it's funny because my dermatologist is like, oh, just put a little on your wrist and see how it reacts. And I'm like, it's like my body thinks my face is different from my neck, is different from my chest, and is definitely different from my wrist, because I might put something on my wrist and it's fine. I put it on my chest, not fine, or my neck. And it's like, it's on the same, it goes from the
Yeah.
face to the chest. And yet, and I think that, some of us are just sensitive like that. And so it's a good tip for people listening. But I know that there's other ways that you can help with the anti-aging process of the skin. And again, I love that you frame this of not about just how do we look, but the barrier of the skin. And I'm always trying to say that to my audience of like, your skin needs to be a healthy barrier to protect you. It's your first line of defense from the outside world. So with that in mind, pregnant women who are trying to conceive, they can't be using this topical vitamin A. There's other people too, they're far too sensitive. So what are some alternatives that people can consider?
Yeah, so one of the things that we have been studying for the past almost 10 years are basically peptides, and more specifically, one peptide that we discovered that can target the aging cells that build up in our skin. So if we think of how aging happens in our skin and in our whole body, basically one of the key drivers is the accumulation of aging cells. They are also called zombie cells or senescent
Hmm.
cells. These are just cells that stop functioning well, so they should be secreting collagen, but they can't produce more collagen. And they also start to secrete like inflammation, and they induce the cells around to age faster. So they can also become zombie if you have like a zombie cell secreting those bad signals. And to us, like even if you have the retinols or if you have your antioxidants, if you continue to accumulate those aging cells, they will be secreting that inflammation, and aging will continue to spread inside your skin. And when we were studying skin aging and testing the products that were out there, like we didn't see any product that was targeting these senescent zombie cells. And
Hmm.
we decided to look for a peptide that could specifically reduce the amount of these cells in the skin. And what happens is if you have like fewer of these cells, you basically make room for the healthy, the young ones to replicate, and they produce collagen again, and they restore your skin barrier. And in a way that's very targeted, it's very specific. It doesn't disturb the healthy cells, so it's not going to cause any irritation or inflammation. And it works basically from the inner layers, from the inside out, in a way that goes like it penetrates the skin and works from the inner layers to the top. And in a way,
Hmm.
it goes like by rejuvenating all the layers of the skin that uh, gives the firmness and the collagen, and until to the top of like a strong barrier and a nice looking skin. So I love this approach because it's one that it goes to the root cause and not only tries to mask the symptoms. And it's again, it's a specific. And I think it's interesting, like peptide is very buzzy right now, but not peptides are created equal. And it's important to understand how that peptide works, how that peptide is going to uh, activate the cells in a way that will produce a certain effect. And that's why this peptide is effective in reducing this amount of aging cells, which for us, like everyone should be fighting those aging cells because they're gonna cause inflammation. They're gonna, cause tissue degeneration. And it's not only in your skin, in your whole body, but I think the skin is one of the easiest way that we can address them because you can apply a cream, the peptide, penetrates and works like on the site. So peptides are safe for like people that are pregnant, that are one of sensitive skin, and they can be really really effective in basically help your skin to build up again that stronger, healthier skin. As I said, from the inside out.
We had dermatologist Dr. Sarah Sharam on the podcast, and she was just praising peptides, but not everyone may have caught that episode. So can you explain what peptides are? Because they are all the rage, but just because things are popular doesn't mean we get the definition around what they are.
100%. So peptides are essentially small pieces of a protein. So they are like little chains of amino acids, and they act as like a messenger. They are going to send different messages to these cells in our bodies. And that's the key, because the more specific the message is, the better your cell will respond to that message. And a lot of the peptides out there, they are not specific. And the general thought, it will improve, cellular function, it will increase collagen. But most peptides out there, they are not like, the mechanism of action is not really understood. In this case, the peptide that we found, we know exactly how it works. It's going to, enter the cell, it's going to send this, message to the cell, shut off inflammation. Inflammation is not good for the cell. Let's increase like the DNA repair pathways, because we needed to protect our cells against the UV damage and all the oxidative stress. And basically helps the cells activate that natural repair system that the cell has. And so your skin is able to behave like younger skin again. So I think, again, peptides can be very useful, but you also need to make sure that they can get into the skin. And a lot of peptides can be, a higher molecular weight, like a bigger size, cannot penetrate the skin, or they can be not stable enough, so they enter and they degrade. And so testing like the stability, the ability to get into the deeper layers of the skin, and how active the peptide is after a certain period of time, it's really key to make sure that you are still getting the benefits when a product like claims to have a peptide in it.
You said, though, not all peptides are created equal. There are so many peptides out there. We're seeing people inject them, but what you're talking about is a topical peptide. If there's one peptide people should be looking for if they want to eradicate zombie cells and promote healthy skin over their lifetime, is there just one that someone could pick?
So as far as we know, and we've been studying this for the past 9 years, as I said, the peptide that we developed, OS1, that's published in scientific journals, it's validated in in clinical studies, is the only one proven to decrease the amount of these zombie cells in the skins. There are other ingredients out there. There are plant extracts and other products claiming to reduce the amount of senescent cells. I haven't seen the data that really proves it. So if I at the moment that I see it, I'll definitely share. Actually, there is one product that's also based on exosomes, and there is one study, it's a small study, that claims to reduce senescent cells, and I saw the data. So that one, okay, at least I saw the data. But peptides, as far as I know, OS1 is the only one that's like published and validated to be able to be specific in reducing senescent cells. As I said, there are peptides that do other things, but specifically targeting zombie cells, as far as I know, and I know that this is a new area of like research, is growing. So I'm sure that eventually more will come up. But this peptide that we developed, it's been, studied for the past like 9 years. And that's one that we feel really, really confident about the efficacy, the safety, and the ability to do what it's supposed to do.
Have you seen any side effects with it that people should be aware of?
We have not seen any side effects. We have tested peptide in different doses, lower, higher concentrations, and the peptide, it's really safe and not have promoted any toxicity and irritation. So again, that's one of the beauty of relying on peptides. I would say like this peptide more specifically has not been shown any side effects.
So I'm curious with applying this. So this OS1 peptide can penetrate the skin. I'm curious though, how long does it take to start knocking out these zombie cells? Of course, we're interested in that, but I think my listeners are probably also like, and when does my skin start looking better? So I think that's a two-part question of what have you seen in terms of your scientific research around this?
Yeah, so in the lab, we have seen result as fast as like 5 days, but also in the lab, it's a very controlled condition. But we see that it reduces the load of senescent cells, and also we can measure what we call the skin biological age, and we can see
Mhm.
reduction in the age of the skin. These
In 5 days?
in 5 days, but in the
That's
lab.
pretty incredible. I know it's in a lab. It's very, very controlled. So everyone
Yeah.
listening, you don't live in a lab, so it's a little bit different, but it's still pretty tremendous to see that kind of result in 5 days.
Yeah, and that's I think the beauty of science is that like we call it like a proof of concept, right? Like it
Hmm.
works in the lab in these conditions. So now how we can translate this into humans? So in humans we have done studies. The classic studies for cosmetics are like 3 months. So we tested the peptide. We even did like a split phase study with the full formula containing all the other ingredients that are also very beneficial for the skin, and half of
Hmm.
the phase containing also the peptide. And we saw that in this half of the phase, we saw an improvement in the barrier of the skin that we didn't see the other side, and we saw more
Yeah.
pronounced reduction in fine lines and wrinkles and radiance that was less, pronounced in the side without the peptide. And we start seeing results around 6 weeks. So usually in the beginning, you are going to see results first, like in the texture of the skin, in the softness. And then with time, you're going to basically see the results that are related to changing basically the makeup of the skin, right? So you're going to see the
Hmm.
firmness, the plumpness, the reduction in fine lines and wrinkles, the tone, the evening in pigmentation. But more interesting than that, we extend our studies to 6 months and 12
Okay.
months. Yeah,
Yeah, I
because
was going to ask what happens if it looks that good at 3 months, what happens like 12 months later?
yeah, so interesting, very interesting. We see that the results are compounding over time. So we see,
Mm.
even with like, we have this measurement that's called like medical grade evaluation. So there is a dermatologist that's looking at the patient and is like grading their fine lines and wrinkles. And we see that the reduction, increases over time. We see that the firmness increases over time. And so it's really interesting. First, that we are like obviously following these participants for a long time, and
Yeah.
and second, we also collect like small pieces of the skin, like small biopsies, and we can look like internally at the cellular level, and we can see that we continue to reduce like the senescence, cells, the zombie cells, and inflammation and improving collagen. So it's one thing that we really pride ourselves of doing, because for us it's not only focused on the near term benefits, which we all are expecting, but how we're how we are treating our skin to improve it in the long term. And we have this, we call ourselves even like a longevity company, because we are working to help you to have your best skin, not only today, but in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. We want yourself to be thankful for investing in your skin in the right way with the right approach, one that's like focusing and optimizing your health. So that's one thing that I, super excited to share, that I think is very unique of, our studies and our company.
Hmm. And for everyone listening, we will link to these studies in the show notes. So if you want to check them out yourself. You said radiance was one of the measurements, like improved radiance, but how is that measured? What does that mean? Because I think, immediately when you said it, I had an idea in my mind, and I'm sure people have ideas in their minds, but how does the science measure improved radiance?
Yeah, there are specific equipment that we use in clinical studies. And these are studies that are done by third parties. So we're not the ones that are actually measuring it, which I think it's great because we have third party validation. And so basically when your skin ages and becomes more dull, you lose that radiance, right? And so when you recover like that moisture, that barrier in your skin, we say this word that's like a little, maybe overly used, glowing. It's basically
Well, that's
because,
exactly the word I thought. When you said radiance, I was like, oh, like glowing skin. Like you
yeah,
think about how in pregnancy, everyone says like, oh, you're glowing. So I was curious if that was
yeah,
part of the evaluation.
yeah, exactly. And so you feel that your skin is healthy, it's like it's plump and it's somewhat in some way like it's very joyful. I that's how I feel my skin. Like when I look at the mirror today, I feel like, wow, my skin is so healthy. I like, touching it and I see the bouncing and that's just like that radiance that always comes from within, within a way that your skin is healthy within, and then it reflects in that way.
Hmm. What was the age of the participants in the study that showed these outcomes? I'm curious because, as we know, lots of estrogen and aging, we start to lose the integrity of our skin. Our collagen declines. We know that after menopause, within that first 5 years, it's about a 30% reduction in your collagen. So I'm just curious, like, what age demographic were you catching in this study?
Yeah, most of the studies that we do is usually plus 45 years old. It's like
Okay.
45 to 65. Some are even older, because in that case, we want to address like the skin when it gets like too fragile. It's a different study that I can share. But for this like face studies, it's usually from 45 to 65. So it does include like mostly women in menopausal um, period. And we can see that there is like this really impactful benefit of like helping restore that collagen production in the barrier, because obviously your skin are going to get also drier because the estrogen, helps you to keep the moisture in the barrier. So most of our studies are in participants that already experience those like significant collagen decline. And
Mm.
it's really interesting to see that we can recover some of that and help your skin recover that, healthy, glowy look.
I know you said a lot of the peptides, we don't know the mechanism by which they work. Do you know what it is about this peptide that helps that collagen production?
Yeah, definitely. So what happens is senescent cells, they are basically not producing collagen. They're not functioning well anymore.
Hmm.
And they are going to start secreting this inflammation that are going to induce the cells around it to become zombie as well. By reducing senescent cells, also some of the inflammation, the signals that they secrete induce collagen degradation. So by shutting off the senescent cells, reducing their amount, we first are not inducing, we are preserving our collagen. Second, we are maintaining the healthy cells healthy and functional, and we even allow them to replicate so they can continue to produce collagen. So we're basically eliminating what is like causing aging and the collagen degradation. And we're allowing your skin to do what it's supposed to do, which is like proliferate, replicate, produce collagen. And so we are removing, we sometimes we call like the senescence of the bad apples, the ones that are rotten. So we're,
Like when you have a rotten berry in the bunch and you're like,
yeah,
I have to get this out before it
exactly.
destroys my whole bunch.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how we, the peptide is working, getting that berry, rotten berry out. And so preserving the healthy ones so they continue to thrive.
Hmm. So I think, we focused a lot on collagen and fine lines and how your skin will be visibly more youthful. And we know that visibly youthful skin, there's also a benefit beyond that. So I'd love to talk a little bit about why this is important beyond just how we look, beyond just, fine lines and wrinkles that come with the loss of estrogen. Why should we care about wanting to have these, senescent cells gone and also having the healthiest skin?
Yeah, so this is actually one of the main reasons why I got so excited about working in the skin and aging, because to me, until, few years ago, or maybe until today, most people just think of your skin from an aesthetic standpoint. And then when I started studying skin and aging, and obviously realizing that your skin is your largest organ, and as the skin ages and accumulates more of the zombie cells, they are secreting more inflammation, not only in your face, but throughout your body. And since your skin is basically covering your body, that inflammation that is increasing in your skin eventually impacts internally your levels of inflammation. And so the skin aging process also impacts our internal aging. And we actually did a clinical study to validate that. And for that study is the one that we use like elderly participants when they already have the skin a little more fragile and thin. And so they were over like 60 years old, and they used our face and body lotion for 3 months. We collected their blood, at baseline and at 3 months. And we saw that just by recovering the strength of your skin, the barrier of your skin, and reducing the inflammation that's coming from your skin, we could lower the inflammation in their blood, like in some inflammatory cytokines like IL-8, IL-6, TNF alpha, interferon gamma. So these are all very pro-inflammatory cytokines, or signals that our cells produce. And we saw a significant reduction in IL-8, and we saw a trend in decreasing this overall profile of like molecules that that they had in their blood. So this study is also published. We can link at the episode. And it's one of the few studies that's connecting like the importance of your skin, impacting your overall health. And so I'm fascinated about that. And even because obviously the more inflammation that you have in your blood, this is associated with chronic diseases, Alzheimer's, all-cause mortality. So if you're doing everything that you want, that you can do to maximize your health, I think your skin can be an important step into that, achieving that overall, better health.
In this study, the OS1 peptide, that was being applied to their skin and to their body?
Yes.
Okay.
The face and the whole body, right?
Sorry, that's what I meant. I was pointing to my face and realized not everybody's on YouTube with us. Yeah, so their face and then their full body. And that's tremendously impactful. I actually haven't heard of any research where you apply a skincare product and you see a reduction in inflammatory cytokines. And that also, as we were talking about perimenopause and menopause before, which is when we see such a rapid change in the skin. We see the rise in senescent cells. We see the inflammation. We also see that a large number of women suffer from new onset anxiety, depression, and even thoughts of self-harming. And to me, I'm now as a clinician, I'm like, okay, hold up. Like we're looking at gut health, we're looking at their diet, right? We're looking at exercise, we're looking at all these things, but it hadn't occurred to me until this moment, until hearing about this study, that we should also be looking at their skin. Because, right, we're always like, get outside, get your vitamin D, like get your sunshine, but also like wear your sunscreen, and not really thinking about leveraging a peptide for immune system modulation. I'm having like kind of a mind blown moment of like, this is really a interesting frontier in terms of having, we talk a lot about holistic medicine, but if we're leaving the skin out of this conversation, it's not really that holistic.
Yeah, 100%. And it's one of our goals at OneSkin to really include the skin in that conversation, because it is one important organ for our overall health, and one that we neglect a lot of times. And the skin is a reflection of our internal health, but also sends signal to our internal body. And so it's like a two-way approach that I think we all needed to be aware of. And on top of like the implication in our health, the other piece that happens as we age and we ignore like the 97% of our skin, which is our body, is the appearance of like crepiness and very thin skin, right? And it's like with menopause, you see an increase, significant increase in crepiness because of that collagen decline. And that, body treatment can help with that, can help like thicken the epidermal layer of the skin, can help like combating the senescent cells, can help your skin to produce more collagen again. So even like the improvement in the appearance, the texture, it's really, really impressive, like what we have seen from our communities and from our clinical studies in recovering that, strong, resilient aspect of our skin that we have right now. But we take it for granted. And then, later in life, we're going to see, wow, why I didn't, treat more my arms, my legs, and even like later in life, they can start like to bruise really easily, to, tear really easily. So it's one area that we also like to bring awareness that we should, treat and invest early on, because eventually that will impact our lives in so many ways.
Yeah. And I especially think, as you're talking about this, I think about my family members who are in their 70s. And there was a situation in our car. We have a little chihuahua, and our son was like, oh, let me just like throw the dog on grandma's lap real quick. And the dog starts scrambling. And I freaked out and had to explain to my son, like, once somebody's in their 70s, they can't have dog nails scratching on their skin. Like, their skin is very fragile. And as you're saying all of this, I'm like, I need to ship them some of this peptide. I need to get them this OS1 peptide for my anxiety's sake, because I get so worried about that. And it's something that generation has certainly said to me. My family members, patients, people I've been in contact with have said to me exactly what you just said. I didn't worry about my skin until it was too late. And I think we have a lot more awareness now. We have a lot more technology with protecting our skin, but it's good to hear that there's a product that can help, because I think sometimes when we talk about aging, some things are like, well, you should have known better in your 20s. Like, how many of us knew better in our 20s, right? And then it's like, there's nothing you can do about it. So having something that you can actually come in and intervene with, I think is fantastic. You mentioned this concept of basically intrinsic and extrinsic aging. So you talked about like, our inner body is a reflection of our skin, but also our skin is affecting our inner body. Can you go into a little more detail around that?
Yeah, definitely. So what we call intrinsic aging for the skin more specifically is basically the natural aging process. Your cells are dividing, eventually they'll get old, and either they will die or they'll become zombie or senescent. And that's mainly genetic driven. And that accounts for about 10% of how we age.
Only 10?
About 10%.
I love this. This is amazing. Okay, keep going.
The other 90% of how your skin ages, it's mainly caused by extrinsic factors, which are the UV exposure, our life, our habits, or if you smoke, blue light, pollution, your diet, if you exercise. And so mostly for the skin, and I think in our inner body this ratio can vary a little bit more, but in the skin, because obviously UV exposure is one of the key drivers of skin aging, this extrinsic factor is even more important. So we needed to be even more aware of obviously sun exposure, but also blue light, and also pollution, and how we're cleansing our skin. But obviously, our diet, our exercise, our sleep will also affect. And And it's good to know that because there's so much that we can do, right? Almost like 90% is in our control of how our skin can age. And there are so many things that we can do today. And obviously, you talk a lot about them. We can talk more about our skin as well in terms of, sun protection. I'm also a fan of, having the natural light early morning, but I also know, long exposure, sun will cause sun damage, and that's how they become zombies. So we know the higher the exposure of UV damage, the more senescent, the more zombie cells your skin will have. And also we know the more zombie cells you have, the more, fine lines, wrinkles, loss of, firmness, um, uneven tone, dark spots, sunspots will have. So I think we have in our hands like the power of like preventing a lot of that.
I want to go deeper on this sun exposure, but you said blue light, and I'm sitting here right now in front of a laptop, and so are you. How is blue light aging our skin?
Yeah, so blue light is basically causing a lot of oxidative stress, producing more free radicals. These free radicals are basically molecules that are going to cause damage in our proteins, in our DNAs. And so there are two ways that you can prevent that. One is through antioxidants that will neutralize the free radicals and prevent them from causing damage. And also sunscreens, like in our case that we use, like zinc oxide, the mineral sunscreens, they can also protect against blue light. So if you're wearing sunscreen right now, it doesn't mean that you are like close to a window necessarily, but if you are in front of the screen, your sunscreen, in our case at least, we made sure that it also contains ingredients that will protect against blue light.
I love that. That is seriously so good to hear. But you said antioxidants. What antioxidants should we be looking for to apply to our skin to protect it from oxidative stress?
So there are many antioxidants out there. I think one important thing to know it's the stability of the antioxidant. So vitamin C is a classic. It's a powerful one if it's stable and active. It's really easy that vitamin C will oxidize. So if you are using a product and it's becoming brown, you know that's oxidizing, that vitamin C is probably not active anymore. So today there are forms of vitamin C that are more stable. We do use a stable form of vitamin C in our sunscreen. So other antioxidants are like green tea, acai extract. There are other plant extracts that are, can be super powerful in antioxidant. On our body lotion, we have sulforaphane. That's another very powerful antioxidant.
I'm always using that internally, telling people to eat broccoli sprouts. But it's so powerful in the research in terms of when we look at cancer formation and you look at sulforaphane and eating your cruciferous vegetables. So I'm actually excited. I want to hear more. Tell me more about that molecule for your skin.
Yeah, basically it's this really powerful antioxidant that helps again fighting these free radicals and can help your skin to again be more effective in fighting that damage. And as you point out, there are studies showing that it can fight like the cancer cells. But in the skin will help like your skin repairing damage more efficiently. So if you're able to repair damage, your skin will not accumulate those zombie cells. Zombie cells comes from a lot of damage. And these powerful antioxidants can help with that.
What form of vitamin C should people be looking for?
I don't have the name right now, but I can send to you, and I will send. We can add on the notes of the episode. But there is this stable form of vitamin C that I know that we should look for it because it's not going to oxidize, and you know that it's going to be active long term.
Okay, so I want to circle back to the UV conversation because we know, right, that there's certain times that we want to stay out of the sun, but then you said you still want to get your morning sunlight, which we know is great for cortisol. So, what are kind of the general guidelines for maintaining healthy skin when it comes to sun exposure?
I think the general that I, take and I recommend it. I'm not a dermatologist or a physician. I'm a PhD, but based on my studies and my, obviously my research in the field is that you want to avoid, first rule obviously is like avoid sunburn, right? And so sunburn, we know that is definitely correlated with skin cancer, and that we want to avoid at all costs. I think that, early 15 minutes like sun exposure in the morning, again, depends where you live, because even in the morning, depending, it could be already really hot. So usually the recommendation is a UV index under 3. But I know that some places, early morning, you can already be above 3. Uh, but I would say, avoid the sunburn, 15 minutes light in the morning. And then I apply my sunscreen every day. I usually replace my foundation with the sunscreen, because we have this tinted one. And to me, like if I can have like a tinted sunscreen that is performing like my foundation, it doesn't give you a lot of coverage, but just like, even your tone a little bit. I know that's protecting my skin. It's like a very nice texture. Like I don't feel that I have sunscreen in my face. So I do that. And so I'm protected again for blue light, for sun, if we're driving. I think that's the other, part that sometimes we forget on our hands as well because we're driving. But I would say, and I enjoy a lot, outdoors activity, but I'm constantly like reapplying sunscreen in a way that I don't get sunburn, but I get a little tan. And I think that's fine because your melanin is protecting you against the UV damage as long as you're not like getting sunburn. So that's my philosophy. I know that, again, people will have different opinions, but I'm more like in that middle ground that I still enjoy life outdoors.
I love that you're saying that, though. I still enjoy life because sometimes I have friends who are dermatologists and they're like, yeah, right. Don't go out in the sun. You should never be out there. And I appreciate what you're saying about your hands, too. So I garden. I do love being outside. I also love to snorkel. And when I go out snorkeling for hours, I will wear a shirt that's a UV protection because I'm not going back in to, if I find, really cool puffer fish, I'm hanging out. I'm not going back to reapply sunscreen. But I've always done like whatever I do to my face, my neck, my chest, do it to the back of your hands as well. And because you're going to go out and you're going to live life. And I really appreciate that message because sometimes, and let me just say to the dermatologist credit, they see a lot of skin cancer. So if you're just seeing skin cancer day in and day out, you're going to have a different perspective about things. But we can't lose the plot in terms of what are we here for? It's to live a full life.
Yeah. And I think that's going to bring you joy. That's going to decrease your cortisol level. That's going to reduce inflammation. So I think there is like so much of these other benefits that we're not taking account. And it's also helping your internal health in so many ways.
Absolutely. So we talked about, the sun exposure. What about people listening right now that maybe they were the baby oil era? You know those people, right? I remember my mom putting baby oil on and going out into the sun. Their skin now, they've suffered skin damage. Are there things that they can be doing now? Like, do some of these antioxidants, are they going to offer protection? Are there ways to reverse that?
Yeah, 100%. I think the beauty of, what science has shown us is that aging is a malleable process. It can be reversible. And so all of that, what we talked today, your diet, your antioxidants, the peptide, even the retinol at, the right dose and the sunscreen will help reverse part of that process. Obviously, it's gonna be a gradual process. It's gonna take months and years, but it is possible with the right routine and the consistency to really repair that damage and bring your skin into a healthier, younger, functional state. And so I usually say it's never too late to start. Obviously, the earlier that you start, the better. We know that we do start accumulating those zombie cells as early as in our 20s. So
Oh no.
yeah, because I mean, in the end, like our life is the build up of these, small habits, and so if we are aware, if we're lucky to be aware in our 20s, that amazing, right? Like let's use the sunscreen, let's use like a good, moisturizer with a peptide that has, scientific validation behind, and just maintain that skin like younger, healthier, functional longer. It's easier than reverse. So yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a surprise because even osteoporosis, right? We're always like, oh, that's a problem when you're in your 60s. It's a problem in your 20s. And it keeps going, and then it manifests in your 60s, 70s plus. So, I am curious though, like what would you say is a good routine? Obviously, you're not a doctor. This is not a prescription, but just you have been deep in the research. So, in terms of someone has had sun damage, let's say they're 50 plus years old, what would be a good daily skincare routine for them?
Yeah, I mean, I'll share mine with you, and probably I can extrapolate for someone that has more sun damage that I do. But I would say start with like, a night cleansing your skin with a gentle cleanser. You can double cleanse, or you just like have a gentle cleanser that doesn't disrupt your skin microbiome, shouldn't dry out your skin. I think at their 50s, primarily, we're trying to preserve like our skin and the barrier, which is really, really important for everything else. So a gentle cleanser and something that's not strip out all of your oils, really, really important. Then you're gonna come, I would say, start to if like a moisturizer that has like peptides that have been scientifically validated or clinically validated, and then I would come with the retinol. You could add another step of antioxidants more specifically that could help with brightening. Uh, so we know that the sea ferulic, like it's like one of very powerful blend of antioxidants. I'm more a fan of antioxidants than the prescriptions ones, but obviously everyone is in a different phase, and you can go through the prescription route as well. One other thing that we have that we recommend, it's an eye cream, because when we were studying, we found that the skin around our eyes is 20 to 30 years older than the skin around, our face, like our temples and cheeks. And we know that the skin is 5 times thinner, accumulates more of the zombie cells. And obviously, it's really hard for you to, at least for me, like I don't put like retinol on my eyelids. I feel that it's too much already. So um, we formulated an eye cream that has a higher concentration of the peptide. And the clinical studies, the data is the strongest one in terms of increasing collagen, reducing fine lines and wrinkles, even the eyelid that starts to droop a little bit, like we could see a little bit of a lifting effect, and in elasticity. So this is the most like powerful product that we have in terms of efficacy. And that's primarily it. And then you could like apply the retinol on top of the moisturizer, as I said. And in the morning, very simple. At least I try to keep a very simple routine. I don't cleanse my skin in the morning again because it's already, clean from the night before. I just rinse it with water. If you have like very oily skin, which is usually not the case for 50-year-old women, just rinse your face and then apply your moisturizer. In our case, our SPF already has all the antioxidants. So I skip, like I don't need to have another vitamin C. And that's it. Like I'm ready for the day.
Yeah. Well, I do have to say that I have used your eye cream. I've been using that. I didn't have any reaction to it, despite having sensitive skin. And it's back to school week. And I was joking with my husband that I was like, I swear this eye cream is saving me from how tired I really am from actually anyone knowing. Like nobody knows that I'm actually tired, because something I've noticed as I enter my 40s is that if I don't get great sleep, it's like really around my eyes that I
Yeah.
will notice it. And sleep definitely wasn't great. Like these last few days is just of like, I don't know if you have kids, but you get like 1,000 emails and there's 1,000 things to do before school. And I've been so anxious about like, don't mess this up for him. And so I really appreciate your eye cream. It's interesting that you said this is the highest efficacy product. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, so for every product that we have, we run our internal data, and we also run clinical studies that is done by a third party. So in our internal data, when we compare the levels of collagen that we induce with our eye cream compared to the face, it's more than double in terms of collagen production. And the genes associated with aging are also more reduced. And for the clinical studies, we saw a really strong improvement in hydration. So it was like 32% measured by instruments. And
There's why I don't look so tired this week, right there. That 32% bump in hydration.
yes. And the hydration will really help with like smoothing out the fine lines. And we also saw a 24% increase in elasticity. And I love that all this data, it's measured by instruments. So it's like, it's quantified. It's not like consumer perception that like, I feel, this way or that way. For me as a scientist, I always look for the hard data. And again, with a formula that it's validated to be safe for sensitive skin. So it's really good for that delicate skin around our eyes.
Mm-hmm. So I want to shift the conversation because I asked you the skincare routine of like, what if you're in your 50s? But I bet there's a 20-something right now being like, hold up. She said these senescent cells are starting in my 20s and you're just going to glaze right over this? No, we're not. We're going to come back to this. So I want to jump back. So let's say someone's in their 20s. Should they have the same skincare routine as someone in the 50s?
I think you can reduce the amount of steps. So I think for the 20s, like if you don't have like discoloration, I don't think you need like a vitamin C. You can stick to sunscreen, a moisturizer, like our face moisturizer already has like the peptide that will fight the senescent cells, that will provide some antioxidants. And I think that's it. I think if you want, if you want to start with a very light retinol, but again, I would do like a few times a week. I would definitely not be aggressive for your skin if it doesn't need to. You want to maintain your skin. You want to make sure that your skin is thriving, and you don't want to do too much on your skin. That's like my advice for younger people.
Yeah. Now, the other phase of life that women go through is pregnancy. And we said like, the pregnancy glow earlier, but it's not like that for everyone. For some people, they get really red and splotchy. Melasma is a thing that, I think a lot of women dread, whether they're going to get it or if they have it, trying to get rid of it. Can you talk to us about how pregnancy hormones are impacting the skin?
Yeah, and maybe I will start saying that this is not, one of my main expertise, and mainly because it's really hormonal driven. So hormonal influences is really hard for us to understand in the lab. But there's something more systemic. And so I would probably recommend, talking to a dermatologist, because I know that some of the brightening, the vitamin C could help, but I know that some melasma cases, you definitely need to consult with a dermatologist.
Well, I think that's important for women to hear because sometimes we think like we have to DIY everything ourselves. And sometimes you just need to go to a provider. And, I appreciate that you're like, it's really hard in the lab. Yep. That's why we don't have a lot of studies on a lot of these things because hormones are hard. Just because, you're pregnant and your neighbor's pregnant and your best friend's pregnant, like doesn't mean you have the exact same hormone profile or that your genetics respond responds to those hormones in the exact same way. So it can be really complicated. But I do appreciate that at the top of this interview, you talked to us about how these peptides can be used in pregnancy, because we're seeing more women are having babies in their 40s. And they're like, wait, what do I do now? Because I can't do the retinol, and I can't do the Botox, and I can't do the lasers, and I can't do, all of the things that people talk about out there, which is, there's a wide variety of things. And so knowing that you can still access these peptides and that it's modulating inflammation, I think is also really interesting as well, especially as I consider that as you shift into postpartum, we can see a huge inflammatory response just by way of the immune system shifting with the loss of the placenta and the birth of baby.
Yeah, no, 100%. And counteracting that inflammation with like those soothing, that's the time that I think you needed to be, give some extra love to yourself, and, don't try too much. Like, you recover, and I haven't had kids yet, so I'm still to go through that phase, hopefully soon. But I think we just needed to sometimes be patient as well. And we'll, with time, our body has this beautiful ability to recover. And so be gentle to yourself, be patient, and there are alternatives that are safe, that are gentle for your skin, so you can rely on them as well.
You mentioned earlier there's lifestyle choices that can accelerate skin aging. I would love to go through a list of those so people know what are like the things that we should consider avoiding.
Yes, definitely. So, I mean, the first one, basic one, we'll start with the sun exposure that we already talked. And I think something that we needed to be mindful that in our daily basis, we are being exposed. You can be by a window, you can be commuting. And so a lot of people is still like, I'm just applying if I'm going to stay in the sun like for hours. I think that should be a daily habit if it's a product that's safe for you. I know that there is some concerns around sunscreen out there, the chemicals, and they could potentially, have some implications, but there are the safe, mineral alternatives like the zinc oxide that you shouldn't have any side effects, and it can still feel really nice into your skin. You need sleep is another one. We know that impacts everything, and obviously impacts our skin so much. We know
I'm just laughing because I outed myself with the sleep.
So if you can, give yourself like that 8 hours, like more than 8 hours is like how much you're recovering, right? So how much you're actually resting, because that's the time that your body, your skin is really repairing all the damage that you were accumulating the whole day. So if you don't give your skin the right time, like your skin will wake up tired and will, go through another battle. And so I'd say sleep is a really key one. A clean, healthy diet full of antioxidants. You want to avoid sugar is going to increase your inflammation. You want to increase your levels of proteins. You can supplement with collagen that you are going to give your skin like the building blocks that your skin needs to build your own collagen. Doesn't mean that the collagen that you're drinking is going to go straight to your skin, but you are allowing your body to have like the building blocks that it needs. And on top of that, the collagen, it can be also antioxidant, so it can help in other ways, and it can help with your joints and other things as well. We know that exercise and all of that also, the movement impacts your skin. And finally, stress. I think stress is another one that to me, running a company, it's one that I'm trying to fight and manage the most. And we know that the increase in cortisol is going to, impact inflammation. We also saw, even like cause things like hair thinning, hair loss that we didn't talk about. But again, senescent cells are also involved in hair thinning and hair loss, and stress is a major driver of hair thinning. And so trying to manage that stress, with meditation or whatever you do to kind of disconnect and reset, I think it's one that most people may ignore based on our busy daily lives, and can really impact in your skin in so many ways too.
We're going to come back to the hair loss because there's nobody listening who's going to let me pass that one up. But you said sugar leading to inflammation as a driver of skin aging. Can you explain more about that?
Yes. So basically, what happens when we're eating a diet full of sugar is that sugar is going to bind to proteins, and it's going to form what we call uh, advanced and glycation products, AE. And this is basically making your collagen more stiff and not like malleable. So you're gonna lose like um, the firmness. Your skin is not gonna be as bouncy the more AGEs that you have in your skin. So a diet full of sugar will lead to more AGEs, will lead to inflammation, will cause your collagen to be stiff and not like malleable as you want it. We call like cross-linking the collagen, so it's not like working properly, and that is also signaling inflammation to the body. So definitely not only that, but when you eat like either like a piece of meat or bread that's a little burnt, uh, it's also full of advanced glycation products, and you should avoid that burnt piece as well. I am always like with people around me, don't eat that burnt part, and some people love that, and like, no, that's not good for you.
I have a father-in-law who eat like burnt toast, and I'm like, no, don't
I
do it.
know.
But I also have a 12-year-old who like is like a little food patrol at times, where he's like, is that raw? Is that overcooked? Like, and so he'll get on his grandpa about it. Like, you can't eat that. It's not good for you. So, as you're bringing this up, and I'm thinking about like, okay, so we've got perimenopause, menopause, we're having loss of collagen. We've got these, glycation elements in our skin that are also contributing to the problems that we face in terms of what we're trying to avoid aging. But the other thing that was coming up is like, this excess sugar is aging your skin. It's inflammatory because of this process. But that excess sugar is also what we see connected to the increase in visceral adiposity for women, which is the fat that packs around their organs, which also increases inflammation. So just for our listeners to make that connection of like, this is, not just about metabolic health. And we're talking about excess sugar. We're not talking about you ate berries. We're talking about, you're eating cake, ice cream, soda, like adding tons of sugar to your coffee. You're going past 25 grams of additional sugar that's coming outside of your natural food sources. That can be so problematic for our cardiometabolic health, but also our skin health as well. And I think that's a really important connection for people to make. Now we're going to go into that hair loss, because I know that piqued listeners' attention. So you said stress can be a driver of hair loss. What else should women be considering if they're experiencing hair loss?
Yeah. So one of the things that we realized that as we were studying zombie cells in the skin, and eventually we all, I don't know if how many people realize that, but like your scalp is basically your skin as well. It's a continuation of your skin. And so our hair follicles are embedded in that scalp, that's the skin, and that also is aging, and it's accumulating those zombie cells. And what we found is that there are studies showing that the accumulation of zombie cells in hair follicles is the major driver of like age-related hair thinning, which basically, comes around our 50s. Is different from the male or female pattern hair loss that's more like hormonal driven, like androgenic related. But also stress can cause more accumulation of senescent cells in the hair follicles, and that can lead to hair thinning and hair loss. We even validated this in the lab that we expose the hair follicle cells with a hormonal stress, and then it caused senescent cells, and then we treated with the peptide, and we could reverse that like senescent cell. Again, we were looking for a solution that would prevent or reverse hair thinning and hair loss without including like drugs that can, have some side effects. There are like many drugs out there that can block, the conversion of testosterone to DHT, which we know DHT is basically this form of testosterone that can bind in the hair follicles and induce hair shrinking. But all of these drugs can have so many side effects. You don't want to take it if you're pregnant. You definitely don't want to take, postpartum. And postpartum is one, period of your life that you're likely going to experience hair loss because you have like a peak in estrogen, and then there is a decline, and then you're going to experience some shedding. And so we basically develop a hair serum that contains the same peptide that fights these zombie cells in the skin, but now fighting the zombie cells in our hair follicles. So it's pretty safe. It has a beautiful results in terms of increasing hair density and hair thickness. It also improves your skin microbiome because our microbiome also changes with aging, and improves your scalp health. And I think it's another area that we usually treat our skins to prevent fine lines and wrinkles, but we don't treat our scalp to prevent thinning and hair loss. That is likely gonna happen at some point of your life. At least like 70 to 80% of people, men and women, experience some hair thinning and hair loss throughout their lives. And I think having this proactive, more like preventative approach is one that we should start incorporating, but also can be used if you're already experiencing, some time of shedding or hair thinning. We have seen, great regrowth in terms of recovering that healthy, hair growth cycle.
Mm-hmm. And this is the same OS1 peptide that you were talking about earlier. I'm curious. So you've seen regrowth. Has it been quantified, like how much hair is able to come back, and how quickly does it come back?
So this usually takes longer.
Hair loss is so lame like that. It takes so long to bring it back.
It takes usually from 3 to 6 months. After 6 months from our clinical study, we saw 40% increase in hair density and 40% increase in hair thickness. So that's really significant and impressive because the hair follicle that was becoming thinner is now like 40% thicker. So it is stronger. It's going to stay in that hair growth cycle for longer. And so we have from our studies like a really, strong quantitative results. We have really strong, before and afters that obviously everyone wants to see. But I think really interesting to see that combating these zombie cells in our hair follicles is also a way to combat like hair loss and hair thinning.
Mm-hmm. We typically, so in medicine, what the belief is currently is that once miniaturization occurs at the hair follicle, so the shaft is becoming thinner and thinner, that's irreversible. Are you saying that you guys actually have seen the hair becomes thicker again?
Yes, it's harder to quantify exactly the same hair follicle.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but I would say that if you're starting the miniaturization phase, it's not completely like, to the end yet, you can reverse that. So it always depends on the phase that you are. But what you don't want is that hair follicle to completely to die. And so that you cannot recover. But if it's in the beginning of the miniaturization phase, you can still recover that hair follicle.
Mm-hmm. That's so interesting. And is this is a serum? Do you have to apply it a couple of times a day? Is it once a day?
Yeah, usually we recommend it twice a day or at least once a day. It's a water-based serum, so it shouldn't make your scalp or your hair greasy. You can still style, blow dry, whatever you like to do. But ideally, twice a day, morning and night. You can apply on a wet hair or dry hair. Uh, but yeah, the consistency here is the most important thing.
And consistency day and night if possible. It makes it easy if you're like wet hair, dry hair, because that I could just see that it being an easy part of the routine.
Mhm.
And then give it at least 6 months to be able to really see the outcomes there. Yeah, which is pretty typical. I mean, anyone who has had a baby, as you were saying, in postpartum knows that at 4 to 6 months postpartum, your hair is going to fall out. And then it's going to be by the time hopefully your baby starts sleeping around 12 months that you start seeing your hair come back. And still they don't always sleep. But I would
Yeah.
imagine, using this serum, it's helpful. But if you're still doing things like skipping sleep, smoking, not practicing stress reduction, that might be able to negate some of the effects.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that would definitely impact the. So in the end, we are always talking about like a holistic approach, right? And so we know that the stress, the lack of sleep, will impact, but you can minimize. So there is obviously sometimes you can't tackle everything at the same time, but you know, if you can add that layer of support to your scalp, will help. It could be better, yes, if your internal body is helping, yes, but I think I wouldn't not do it because you can't do everything at the same time.
Hmm. And I know that for certain hairstyles, like people don't wash their hair every day. Does that have an impact? Like, do you need to be washing your hair every day and applying the serum? Or is it something that, if you have a particular hair type that you're like, I need to wash it every other day, or I get it styled a certain way, I can't wash it for several days. Would that, negate the effects, or does the product build up?
The product itself shouldn't build up. It's
Mm.
very light and should absorb really easily. I think if there is a buildup of, oils and other, dirt, maybe of like the day to day, that can impact the absorption of the product. So obviously a clean scalp will absorb better. Uh, but I think, I wash my hair every other day and I still wear it every day. And I think that's totally fine.
And are you using it preventively?
I use
That's
both.
it's a very personal question. I
Yeah,
apologize if
no,
that's too
I
personal.
actually have like the, male female pattern hair loss in running
Hmm.
my family. So I know, how impactful, in our mental health and, in many ways hair can be to you
Absolutely. Yeah.
because yeah, when you start like seeing your parts like showing, it definitely has an impact. So I use both. I actually want to reverse, and so I do other things. I do the hair light therapy. Sometimes I do the PRPs, and so I'm trying everything because I'm on that phase of trying to preserve and regrow as much as possible because I already feel like the thinning, and that's not fun.
No, for sure. I have hypothyroidism. I remember before I was diagnosed, losing my hair and just like clumps of it coming out. And it is, until you've gone through it, you don't understand how distressing it is on a mental health level. For people who know they have, familial hair loss, or, they're just like, I want to keep my hair for as long as possible, as luscious as possible. Like, when should they, consider using this as a preventative measure, this peptide?
Yeah, I think if they have this androgenic, related baldness in their family, I would start as early as their 20s. If they don't have and they would just want to prevent, I would probably start in my 30s. I wish I had this product when I was in my 30s because I think it would be easier to maintain my hair. uh, but if you have in your genetics, I would start probably in your 20s. And I know that some people can start even, getting bald around your 20s. So that's one thing that the earlier the better if you have in your family.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing for listeners to consider. I'm also curious, are there things that people are doing unknowingly that's maybe damaging their hair or you know, can be having a negative impact? I mean, other than like the stress, the sleep, some of the things that we've talked about.
Yeah, definitely you needed to be careful with like the chemicals, the bleaching of your hair, how how are you dyeing your hair, those chemicals that go into your scalp, they can definitely impact your scalp microbiome, your hair follicles. So I would be aware of that. I would be aware also of sun exposure on your scalp because obviously if your scalp is getting damaged and sunburned, that's also gonna impact your the aging of your scalp and consequently your hair follicles. And as always, like the products that you wash your hair, you clean your hair, you need ideally they would be, they would contain like safe ingredients because otherwise, you're causing more irritation in your scalp, more redness, and that's all contributing to that, aging process, as we know.
You've brought up the skin microbiome, the scalp microbiome. What do you think people should know about that?
I think people should know that our skin, our scalp, our gut, we have these microbes and bacteria, fungi that are important to maintain the health of our bodies, and they produce certain metabolites. They protect our skin. They help even like obviously in our gut, like metabolizing our food and absorbing the nutrients. So maintaining that microbiome like healthy in a homeostasis state is really, really important. And when that microbiome is disrupted in the gut, like we have leaky gut, in our skin, you can have a lot of things related to, either eczema or psoriasis, or you can have acne. That's also dysregulation. It could be hormonal as well, but like it could manifest if your microbiome is dysregulated. In your scalp, you can have like a itchy scalp, a flaky scalp, and dandruff, and all of those things can be associated with like an unhealthy and imbalanced microbiome. So protecting that microbiome basically means like not using things that are stripping away all of your good, bacteria. So it can be, you can't have like, you can't use like soaps or detergents that are really stripping that good bacteria. And use products. There are products, obviously, probiotics for the gut, but they are like in our scalp serum, we have like a prebiotic for the scalp as well that helps like nurture that microbiome so it will continue to, perform at its best.
That's so interesting. Of course, I'm familiar with prebiotics. And for my audience, I will link to the gut health episode where I talked all about prebiotics internally, how they feed those critters that grow in your gut. And it's one of the best things that you can do for microbial diversity. I mean, everybody's always looking at like, how do we eradicate things and why do I have this dysbiosis? And we need to be consuming prebiotics. But the concept of actually putting prebiotics on your scalp is totally new to me. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, so basically our, scalp microbiome can change with aging, and there are ways that you can help like shift that microbiome to a healthier one. So you can support the growth of the good bacteria that will support the growth of your hair follicles, and you can decrease the growth of the bad bacteria that is associated with hair loss. So there are ways that you can do this with prebiotics, so nurturing the right bacteria. And when you have the right bacteria, usually they prevent the growth of the bad bacteria, and the same with fungi. So a lot of ingredients can help like modulating that microbiome in a way that you have the right ones there that are supportive to your scalp health. And that's one thing that impacts not only again your scalp but obviously your hair growth.
Yeah. That I think probably is a big light bulb moment for a lot of people who struggle with, fungus on their scalp. It's something that's really common. Nobody wants to talk about it because it's really shameful. And I think this is going to be one of those big breakthrough moments for people as well, hearing that like there are actual ways to cultivate the microbiome of your scalp, because we also know in the gut, when we have fungal overgrowth, in the vagina, when we have fungal overgrowth, we have to cultivate the good bacteria if we want to prevent that from reoccurring. So that is absolutely fascinating. We'll link to all of the products that we've discussed today, including that scalp serum, because I know people are definitely going to be, I can already see them in the comments, like, give me the link to that. But I wanted to finish up by asking you if you could correct one major misconception women have about skin aging, what would that be?
First of all, skin aging and like having your best skin will mean different things for, every person. I think we all should look for that skin that make us feel confident, that make us feel good. And 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 a healthy skin usually is a halfway there. Like a healthy skin is a good looking skin, is a skin that is telling you that your body is healthy. And obviously you can go further if you want to do the injectables and the Botox. But I think to me, as I age, I try to optimize my skin in a way that I'll feel and look my best. But I'm not after, that the flawless, and some people are after that glass skin that's like a completely perfect skin. I'm looking for my best skin that I still feel, myself, but not in a way that I could, be doing too much to my skin, and in a way that I'm, kind of disrupting, what my skin is supposed to be and to mean for my body. So in the end, I think about aging skin is something that we are optimizing, and we shouldn't necessarily fight for like that 20-year-old skin again, but like embrace it, that, even some lines, if they're an expression of the memories and the laughs that you had throughout your life, that's my philosophy. I still would do, a lot of things to look, at my best, but I think I try to respect that balance. So that's my philosophy. I think in the end, like less is more, and there is still ways that you can achieve that great look, and prioritizing health. I think health, should always come first.
That's such a refreshing message, I think, for women to hear, especially in the age of the Kardashians. No shade to them. I am all about whatever makes you happy and how you want to live your life. I support you in making your decisions. And yet, I think sometimes when we see radical facelifts and all of these procedures, women feel like there's a new bar, a new hurdle that they have to be leaping over. And so to hear a message from a scientist who has a skincare line saying that, embracing the natural process, but nourishing your skin so that it can have the best integrity, the best of health, is just a beautiful, beautiful way to end this conversation. So I appreciate you sharing your expertise for all of these aha moments that I think our listeners are going to really appreciate, and for the work that you're doing to transform skincare for women for the better.
Oh, thank you, Jolene. Yeah, this was a wonderful conversation. Thanks for allowing me to share a little bit with your community. And thanks for all that you do. I think you are, obviously a beacon of like so much great information and inspiration for a lot out there.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. If you could like, subscribe, or leave a review, it helps me so much in getting this information out to everyone who needs it. If you enjoyed this conversation, then I definitely want you to check out this.